Since then, every day I remember the face of this soldier. He had a bullet hole in his head.
They told me that they're at a place at one of the junction and they see, 10 or 15 bodies. And I said, what? 10 or 15 bodies? What are you talking about?
This is massive numbers. We're talking about an attack of over 6,000 people into civilian towns and villages on an early Saturday morning. Hi, I'm Dovie Maisel, Vice President of Operations for United Hatzalah.
And I'm Elad Bachar, the head of the medical division.
And welcome back to another very special episode of Masters of Emergency, taking it hour by hour of the October 7th events. And today, on this episode, we have a very special person, volunteer, friend, colleague of many, many years, who spent, I think it was maybe 48 hours out of his house before he came home for the first time, after he left at 6:29 in the morning on that Saturday morning of October 7th. We've been through a lot of stuff together over the years, but nothing like this. So I'm honored to have Chezi Rosenbaum here with us. Hey, Chezi.
Hi.
Oh.
So we left off just a short while ago at 12:44, and now it's 12:48 in the afternoon, early afternoon of October 7th. The events are unfolding. Volunteers are leaving their homes, risking their lives, going out there, challenged with many dilemmas in the field of how to respond, where to respond, who do you treat first. So many events, people calling for help from every direction. And at this point, I mean, we're just watching this. Elad and myself were here and watching this unfold. And I think I'll hand it over to you, Chezi, right now, because we were in touch already early in the morning on Saturday when you left your home. So we're going to go through the timeline, but I'd like you to take it from your personal perspective from 6:29 in the morning, and then we'll plug it in back to the timeline of where we are now. Tell us a little bit about yourself, first of all, Chezi.
Okay, my name is Chezi Rosenbaum. I live in Kiryat Malachi, and I'm a United Hatzalah volunteer. I work in productions all over the world, and I'm mostly that's what my wife says. I'm mostly a United Hatzalah volunteer.
Yeah. So tell us.
Yeah.
First of all, where were you? What?
Okay.
6:29 in the morning.
I was home in Kiryat Malachi. Kiryat Malachi is a city that we're used to getting sirens in previous attacks. So it's not something new. 6:29, I wake up, there's sirens in the city where I live. And of course, I have my phone next to me, and I see that it's not only, my phone is on even though I observe Saturday, because I'm a coordinator in Kiryat Malachi, and so my phone is on 24 hours on Saturday holidays all the time. So basically, I look at my phone and I see there's missiles flying all over the country. Of course, I don't have a bomb shelter in my apartment, so we have to, every time there's a siren, we run downstairs, 3 flights of stairs with the children, wake them up, 6:29 in the morning, ran down, and we wait a few minutes and we go back up. But that day, it started very, very strong. That means we used to hear a siren, there a siren, nothing like we had that day. The amount of sirens. I would say around 7:30 in the morning, I get a call from the base telling me, listen, it's not only missiles flying. We know they're shooting in Sderot. We know they're shooting in Ofakim. Be aware, because Kiryat Malachi is also not too far. It's like 20-minute ride from there. Be aware if something shooting occurs in your city, make sure whoever goes out goes with the bulletproof vest, helmet, and everything. So that's the call, and I understood something big is happening. That's what I knew. So I said, you know what, I'll take my wife and children to my in-laws. They have like a bomb shelter in their apartment. It's a newer apartment. They have a bomb shelter. It took us a while to get there because there was over 15 sirens in the city where I live. We ran.
But you needed that, the comfort.
I needed the comfort. So basically I put them in my in-laws, I dropped them off by my in-laws. and I left my car right by the shul. Because Simchas Torah is a day in Chabad, we all party all day. Basically, we were in shul all day. So I left I had a little Hatzalah car. That I left my car by the shul, and I said, you know what? I'll go to shul. I'll say Yizkor for my mother and brother, and then we'll see how the day takes us from there. I don't even get into the shul. I get to the building. I get a call from Aaron Ben Arush, basically telling me go to the.
Aaron is our guy from operations over here at headquarters,
and basically telling me go bring all equipment you have in Kiryat Malach. He has how many tourniquets do you have? How many bandages? I said, listen, I'll go see. He said, bring whatever you have. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, people are wounded and there's no tourniquets and there's no bandages. Go bring whatever you could. I went down in each city we have like a little. Equipment center, and I went and I picked up what we have. I saw we didn't have a lot, so I decided to go to Ashdod as well. I won't forget that ride because there was sirens all the time. So I put on my helmet, I put the bulletproof vest as well, and I see missiles there was 2 missiles fell like a few hundred meters from me in Tzomet Emunim. You saw the smoke coming out, and I remember I didn't even think about it. I said, usually you're supposed to lie down on the floor. I said, you know what? It's more important that I get there. I have my bulletproof vest. If something happens, Hashem Ya'azor. God should help us. So I drove down to Ashdod, and I picked up all the equipment they had as well. Now, when I left Ashdod, I was told to get to Sderot. Now, I don't know why until today. When you go from Ashdod, the main way is go to Yad Mordechai and make a left
onto Route 34.
I don't know why something made me turn to Route 35 and come from the back.
Just 1 second, just pause right there because in the previous episode we had Linor. We had Linor over here that set up the Cheletz staging area, and the reason that she chose Cheletz was because Route 34 was closed off because it was swarming with terrorists.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
So I know for sure if I would be driving down there, I probably wouldn't be here for sure. But I don't know, something inside me told me, I still today don't know why, it told me to take the other road, which is a little longer, and it's like back roads, but I took that road, and basically then I got a call, come to Cheletz. I come to Cheletz, we dropped off all the equipment there.
What did you see when you came to Cheletz?
Describe what you saw.
There was a few cars there, a few cars of Hatzalah, and they were still getting ready. Nothing major was happening there yet.
There was injuries there?
No, nothing yet. Basically, so they said, listen, you're armed, you have a gun, so you go with David Bader. We took I left my little Hatzalah car there and took an ambulance and go see what's happening around. Go tour the area. We knew there's shooting in Sderot, we knew there's shooting in Ofakim, but we didn't know anything else.
Well, just remind the listeners and viewers that Cheletz was the police improvised checkpoint there that wasn't allowing civilians to cross there because that's that's going into the hot zone. And Chezi, we were talking earlier about the decision to go in under fire and allow the volunteers to go in and understand that. And Rachel was talking about it, and Lenore is the DNA of the organization, is knowing that. I mean, what goes through your head before we continue? At that moment, when you cross that police line at Cheletz, knowing and you see the smoke and you see and you see the missiles there, what goes through your head at that moment? You have a wife and kids at home.
It's a good question. The truth is, until today, I look back, for 1 second, there was no fear. I don't know, we had a mission that we have to fulfill and we have to do, and there's no fear there. I don't know, maybe others, but we had more frightening moments. There, I didn't feel anything for sure. There was a checkpoint. Okay, there's a checkpoint. Many areas, a very, very light checkpoint. No one was going that direction. Everyone was going the other direction.
Everyone's just escaping. Yeah.
And basically we stopped. So we stopped my little car. We'll go back to the store. We stopped the little car, and I went on the ambulance with David Bader since I was armed. And we said we're not going to go into Sderot. We passed the entrance of Sderot. And we get to the end, Michlelet Sapir.
There's like a college there. On the back entrance of Sderot, there's a regional college there.
And when we make the right, we start seeing cars on the side, burned, bodies outside.
This is back onto Route 34.
This is on the corner of 34 and 232.
You understood what you see? What you saw?
We understood what we saw, but we didn't understand how big the whole thing is. So we stopped a second. We checked two bodies. We saw there's nothing there to help, and we moved on, which is another 100, 200 meters to the junction itself, Tzomet Sha'ar HaNegev, the Sha'ar HaNegev junction.
At that point, David and Chezi called me at the operations center, and they told me something that I couldn't believe. They told me that they're at a place at one of the junction, and they see, I don't know, 10 or 15 bodies. And I said, what? 10 or 15 bodies? What are you talking about? Open the camera. And then he said,
through the technology.
Open the carbon system.
I'm with you. And I tell him, open the camera, open the system, open the transmission. And then literally, Chezi, you and David divided the scene there. He took one end.
So David basically took the camera and was showing you around. And basically, I was going through because there was more than 10, 15 bodies. We counted in that area close to 40 to 60 bodies in that junction. We understood over there that it's something much bigger. And basically, that's what we said. David, show them what's happening here. Let them understand what's happening here. This is not something we ever saw before. And I was going through the bodies, basically checking to see if there's anyone alive still to save.
I want to hold you a second at that point. Is when you went one direction, looking at, doing a scene survey there. I mean, you were the only ones there. There wasn't anyone else there. Because I remember the camera as you were going. It was like walking through an apocalyptic scene, and you're alone.
Yeah,
there was no one there, and you went one end, and David is the other end. And then I pointed out. I say, wait a second. I see on the camera an orange vest. Remember that?
Yes.
An orange vest on the road.
Yeah.
And wait a second. Orange vest is might be one of our volunteers.
Right.
And so David runs over, and you joined them then.
Yeah, I joined them then, and we picked up the vest, and we saw it's a United Hatzalah vest, and there was
a doctor vest.
The name of a doctor. It said a doctor on it, and basically, and then you said, I forgot the doctor's name.
I'll tell you his name just a second.
I met him.
His name was Abu Arar, Tarek Abu Arar from Arara, and he's a Bedouin from the Negev.
So we saw the vest, and then basically you said, "Let's go through the bodies again and see if his body is there." So basically, we went back over the bodies again to see if we can recognize him.
We at headquarters, remember at this point, say, "Wait a second, red flag, another one of the volunteers." Because Chezi, I do want you to mention that one of your colleagues. We'll talk about that in a second, but you leaving your house and identifying possibly a volunteer of ours that was either killed or kidnapped, and this is in addition to what you found out. I didn't know if you knew yet at this time of the day about Maol.
No.
A volunteer. So tell us just a moment of this. One word about that, about Maol.
About Maol. Maol is a volunteer that we knew he's something important in.
He's a volunteer from your town. He's a neighbor.
No, he's a neighbor. But we knew he's something important in intelligence in Israel. We didn't know exactly. He said because when we give equipment to a new volunteer, he was already like 2 years with us. When we give a new bag of equipment to a volunteer, so usually you take a picture. He said, "I'm sorry, I can't take pictures." I said, "Why?" "I'm in the Misrad Rosh Hamshalah, the Prime Minister's office." That's like a code.
It's a code name.
It's a code name that we all know. So we never push. We never
Shin Bet and other secret services.
So we never push too much about that. But going back, like running this through the Maor story, Maor is a Shin Bet in a very high rank, and he heard the same morning that something's happening. He just left his house and he took his rifle and he went and he fought with his friends. And he was killed in one of the moshavim, and he was picked
early in the morning.
Early in the morning, probably around 9 o'clock in the morning, something like that, maybe 10 o'clock. And he was picked up by United Hatzalah ambulance that they were doing CPR on him and trying to save him. And
I didn't know this.
And United Hatzalah doctor also called it in Tzomet Netivot. It's a whole story afterwards. The Shin Bet guy put a special piece of paper or whatever. They took him to they said you can't drop him off anywhere else. The ambulance driver took him to a special hospital, a facility, and someone was waiting for him. But he's a
real hero.
He's a real hero. He gave up.
Hero.
If we're talking about heroes, that's my model of hero.
Nobody knew what he does.
No one knew.
But the most
guy.
amazing thing is, simple guy comes to volunteer. I mean, he has this crazy secret job, and yet in his spare time, volunteers in Kiryat Malachi in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
So back to Route 232 and 34. You see the orange vest. You're like, you're seeing the name, and we're trying to check and
we're running again through all the bodies because there are a lot of bodies. There's bodies that burned. There are terrorist bodies. There's bodies in trucks next to the cars. It was a disaster. I even remember while we were there in the junction, there was a siren. So there's like a
mobile shelter,
like a little bomb shelter in the junction over there. Because the siren went off, we ran in. We run in, we see there's 2 bodies inside that were blown up by grenades. We couldn't see if they're Jewish, if they're terrorists. We're standing in the bomb shelter with these like blown up bodies. And we go back out, and then we went through it. We found another doctor. We said, maybe it's him. We saw like a plaque on the car of a doctor, and we said, no, it was a different doctor, a Russian guy that was also killed there. And we went car by car. And while we're standing there, we were standing with the ambulance there, a big army truck, like D-Max, pulls over next to us. Open up the door, pull out the bed. We open up the door, pull up the bed. We get our first wounded soldier. So I put him in the ambulance. David got on the wheel. I put the bandage on the wound, and then he started he's still whispering to me. Until today, I always try and think what he was trying to say. And this is something that follows me. So I made up a story for myself. He said, either save me or please tell my family I love them. That's what I take for myself, even though I didn't really understand. They contact us also.
They contact us?
From the army. They wanted to find out a bit information of him. I know he's from Rehovot, and he didn't make it attend. But at the time he was still with us. He was still breathing, trying to talk to us, and David got on the wheel, and then I asked David, call the headquarters and see where we bring him. We need a medic for this. We're regular ambulance, not medics. And they said, okay, you have to bring him to Sderot. There's a Tachanat Mada in the entrance in Sderot.
Yeah.
You have to bring him there. Okay?
Bring him to an ambulance station.
To the ambulance
Sderot.
station.
Like, that'll help him.
Yeah. Okay. So David gets on the wheel, and David said, but the Waze doesn't work. So he started losing conscience in the back. I started bagging him. And I know Sderot, this is not my first time in Sderot, so I'm also I'm in the back bagging him and also directing him how to get to where we were told to get.
And at that time, the terrorists in Sderot.
Yeah, in Sderot. On the way, they're shooting towards us. I just tell David, this drive. Don't stop for anything. This drive. And really, we drove there. We get there. And the only people waiting for us there is a United Hatzalah medic ambulance with a United Hatzalah paramedic Shemis and Chai Matias as a driver. They're waiting in the entrance over there, so we're passing him over to the medic. I remember they're trying to intubate him, and there's sirens on. So everyone left except for the people that were intubating. They stayed even though there's sirens, and they didn't run to the shelter, and they stayed there. And
a true battlefield.
Yeah, true battlefield. Yeah, and I was so amazed because we're the only ones there. Where's the national ambulance? They were there. They were told not to leave there. We saw them. We saw them there. They were told not to leave the station.
Unbelievable.
So we passed them over, and basically we went out to Sderot back to the.
They wanted, though. I know they
Yeah.
wanted. We spoke to so many of them. They wanted to go out and help. They just got orders.
More than that, I always tell me, okay, you didn't do. They teach us always in EMT classes, safety comes first. So I always tell them that my example is, if you come to a fire and you see a little kid, 3-4 years old, in the window, are you going to risk your life and try and run in to save him, or are you going to say safety come first? We all know we all are going to run in and save the kid, even though taking the risk. So that day, that's exactly what United Hatzalah volunteers did. Every time we went in and out is 4 wounded soldiers and civilians that day in my ambulance, I would guess around 40 people we brought out from that area. And that's only my ambulance. There were tens of ambulances of United Hatzalah volunteers that brought out wounded people.
Unbelievable. So if we're now looking back at the timeline, we're around 1:15 in the afternoon. So after that assessment, you continued, to Sderot. We ended up sending the logistical truck that unloaded all of the equipment and medical supplies and bulletproof vests and chelets. We diverted them to go to that intersection and clear the road from the bodies, because you guys were also getting on the radio and saying there are tanks on the road. There are tanks on the roads, and we understood that we need to clear at least those in the middle of the road, so that the evacuation routes will be open. And we sent the logistical trucks to actually go and sort of
So let me tell you about that. On one of our rounds, I remember there was he was a masseuse in the party. That was his job. He gave massages there, and he was wounded with stretch nail in his head. And then another truck, army truck, pulls over and said, "I have someone severe," and they brought him out, and I saw he's dead. There's nothing we can do. So I said, "I'm sorry, guys, he's not wounded." So the army says, we're not leaving him here, and we have to run back to fight. You have to take him. So I had 2 more wounded people, except for that masseuse in the car. I said, "Guys, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to put a dead body in here. I'm going to cover him with we have like a smichat milut, like an emergency blanket, and I cover
an aluminum emergency blanket.
Yeah, so I covered him and on the bed, and the wounded people were sitting on the chairs around him, and I drove down to Cheletz with them, and we passed over the wounded people to the other ambulances in Cheletz, and they took them off to the hospital. But I said, "Guys, I have a body in my ambulance. Where am I putting him?" So they said, "The truck that's dropped off all the equipment here." So I was the first body that
I didn't even know that.
I was the first body that put into the truck. It was
that was the. So that was right after the order that we gave, and then the truck went south and ended up doing
to the place
that you were earlier, exactly, and to clear from that route. And it was just everywhere you go, driving through the apocalypse, burning cars, bodies, and it's just how do you even explain to yourself in this situation, like, what?
In the situation, you don't really explain. I'm telling you,
you work in automatic,
100. Yeah, I look back, I say, how is it possible? Because this is, we saw bodies as volunteers. We were in car accidents. We did CPR on babies. We saw everything in life, but nothing prepared us for something like this. 60 bodies in a junction, people with their hands tied. By the way, and weapons all over the road, RPG, grenades, live grenades, it's like a movie. This is something that even in movies you don't see.
The brain can't believe what the eye see.
You can't intake what you're actually seeing.
Yeah, but we're so busy in doing.
Exactly.
We didn't even have time to think about it. We're one round after every time you go in and out, we're bringing out 4 wounded people, 4 wounded soldiers usually, and like the next round afterwards, I remember.
But these soldiers aren't coming out of Gaza. These soldiers are coming out of the kibbutzim and the villages and the towns where these soldiers are battling. I mean,
and the army bases.
We could mention this again. and because we spoke about this in the opening, is in the aftermath, just recently was released the real numbers. Over 3,000 terrorists, 3,000 trained terrorists, and another 3,000 civilians that went in for looting and whatnot and killing as well. This is massive numbers. We're talking about an attack of over 6,000 people into civilian towns and villages on an early Saturday morning. Unreal.
So going back to the junction, after we passed over the wounded soldier, the first wounded soldier that we passed him over to Sderot, we get there, and I'm going through again. There was more bodies that I didn't see earlier, and I was going through and checking them. And basically, David went. There were like two soldiers, like further away. There was like a tank that was blocking the area there, and further away. So he was walking there, and suddenly we start hearing shooting again. So David ran, and he didn't understand why a soldier is shooting at him. So there were another two special elite teams over there that went, and basically they killed. There was two terrorists dressed up as soldiers, ranked with carton, like a carton cardboard,
high rank,
like Aluf Mishneh or something
fake.
like yeah.
It's Lieutenant Colonel.
Yeah,
Lieutenant Colonel, yeah.
Fake on a cardboard with a marker. And this is something that we saw afterwards.
Yeah, those watching can actually see this on the screen right now.
It's incredible. So that was probably the second time I think that we got shot at. And then the next round we said, okay, we're going further in, and we went to Kfar Aza. And we get to the...
So we're up to 2:30 in the afternoon. And
I think even a little before.
Well documented.
Okay.
2:30. You know, what we found, and it's interesting, is that when we debrief and research the incidents, it's hard for us when we're in the event to do the math of times. But when we actually nail it down and listen to the recordings and the logs and everything, 2:30. Chagiv went in at 9:00 in the morning from Saad, but he got stuck in there in the house of one of the families when the terrorists were there. And the first time we could get back in was you getting there at 2:30 in the afternoon to the yellow gate of that kibbutz.
So basically we got, and at that time, the gate was still open. So we walked in and then started shooting. So we moved back, and basically the soldiers that were there, they said, guys, you wait here. We'll bring out the wounded people to you. So basically we parked our ambulances with our face out and ready to get wounded people, and we're getting wounded all the time. We're getting wounded people.
That's where you coordinated with the Airborne 669 unit, ground coordinator, right?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about not having central command on anything that was going on this day. Okay. So it's all ad hoc connections with troops on the ground. So you get to the gate of Kfar Aza and you team up with tell us a little bit of how that looked. How did you coordinate this? How did you get afterwards knowing to give us the information back here to send over additional resources? Tell us a little bit about that. So
on the first day, it was a mess. There was nothing was organized. It was a mess. I have wounded people. Wait here, take them. I have a helicopter of 669 coming here. Please wait. Let's go together. The second day, it was much more organized. We were still there at the second. We'll get back to the second day, but we're still there. And then it was much more organized, and they're taking us to special fields every time. But the first day was a mess.
We tried to have at any given moment. I remember to give you. I mean, the team there. You also ended up having a team at the gate that stayed there to do the triage, and we were sending teams of 5 ambulances at a time, so that they can go in and out together from the gates to the helicopters, or to the hospital.
And they used to come with us on our ambulances, because there was no army ambulances at the first day. There was no other ambulances except for ours. And we used to go from there either to Cheletz or to Hatzalah,
or to Saad,
or to the hospital.
Or
we used to decide according to the base. We used to call the base. What are we doing? Or bringing them to Cheletz? Is there a helicopter, a United Hatzalah helicopter waiting for us there? Is there a 669 helicopter in the field that used to? So we used to pull out this wounded people and then decide, sometimes on our own and sometimes with the headquarters, where to bring them.
So you mentioned the helicopters, and at the 3:03 finally we got the clearance from air control, and at 3:03 2 of our helicopters took to the air lifted off from Sde Teiman, which is in the south, and targeted at landing at Chelitz. Avi Marcus was already there coordinating the landing operation and the triage.
And then
he ended up jumping on one of the helicopters and becoming a team member on the helicopters. So 3:03, the helicopters took off, and in the next hour when Avi will be here, he'll tell us all about the operation of what that looked like of the helicopters. But once again, it wasn't only our helicopters. We saw, I mean, there were dozens of the military, of the Air Force helicopters, the Blackhawks that were landing there, and you, Chezi, and the guys out there were doing the transports, literally back and forth.
Back and forth. And not only there, I'll give you one of the stories with and every time it's from a different junction. We didn't always stay in Kfar Aza because suddenly someone pulls us, oh, there's wounded people here. So sometimes it's after Netivot towards Saad, and sometimes Kfar Aza, and sometimes it came from all different directions. This is like one of the stories that really hurt me hard. Was we picked up 4 girls with wounds, like little wounds all over the body. And
from the Nova Festival?
No. Soldiers.
Oh.
Soldier girls. And basically, we went into the hospital. We were driving them to Soroka and Beersheba hospital. And on the way, I'm asking them, because it was all dry. This was probably around 2:30 in the afternoon, 3 o'clock, something. This is probably the timeline. I said, what happened? So he said, they were told 7:30 in the morning that the terrorists are coming to their base. They opened up a line, and when they saw the terrorists, they started shooting. The terrorists threw grenades at them, and they're full of scratch nail and in all their body. So once they were all wounded and bleeding, they all ran back into the building and hid underneath the mattresses in one of the rooms. And they hear the terrorists outside killing their friends, dancing and singing. And these girls are 18. They're like the age of my daughter, my older daughter.
They're not combat soldiers, put it that way.
Yeah, they're not this. And we gave them, their battery died since 7 o'clock in the morning. We gave them our phones to call their parents and family. And to hear them crying and telling what happened there, that this is one of the hard things that, I still carry with me till today. But that's not the only story that we went through that day.
Tell me a little bit about you. You mentioned before, and we have a video here that I'll actually want to show. Is you're describing driving on the roads, and you're hearing the shooting, and you're seeing terrorists. Maybe we'll pause for a second, and we'll just put on a short video so you can understand what an ambulance team that is driving on the road, where there are planned ambushes by terrorists. You'll be able to see in the video a victim on the ground waving down the ambulance for help. The ambulance pulls over, and as they get off, you listen carefully, you hear the gunshots of the ambush of the terrorists.
שישלחו קודם כל צבא לכאן, שזה לא יהיה מלכודת של מחבלים.
אבל אני אתרחק אולי קצת?
שנייה.
אלד, אני אתרחק קצת?
In the video, you can actually see the terrorists hiding behind the car, and one of the medics, one of our guys there, is telling the other one, "Be careful that it's not an ambush. That it's not an ambush." And guess what? It was an ambush, and thankfully that happened. Tell us firsthand experience. I mean, how did that feel like? I mean, you're coming to treat. You see the victims, and you saw that case where you had that soldier that looked like an officer, which turns out to be a terrorist.
It sounds scary when I look back at it.
But in the moment,
but at the moment, we were busy in this.
You're not thinking about it.
We're not thinking.
Maybe that's a good thing sometimes. Us and EMS in general, Chezi, we know each other for many years. Elad as well. I've been in this since I was 14, which is around 2 years. And you really, when you think about things, in retrospective, you're like, why would I do something like that? I mean, it's just unsensible.
So you're right.
But when you're in
right.
the midst of the moment,
You're right.
you do what needs to be done.
But if you ask me, and probably not,
you do it again?
not only me, all the United Hatzalah volunteers, would you do this again, knowing the risk now that we know the risks that we went through? There's not one volunteer that would say I wouldn't do it
regrets
again.
it.
Listen, I love life. I love my family. I love being here. But you know what can be a better way to die than saving soldiers, 4 people at a time, and driving?
God forbid. God forbid.
God forbid.
Look, you're here to tell
No,
about it.
yeah,
Together
Dovie-
with hundreds of others.
Dovie told me like one day that he said when you're thinking about approving or not approving the volunteers, he said I was sitting in the headquarters and we were mentioning names. He said I might have to go visit some wives of some of the people here, and he told me my name went up there. I hope it's a good sign, but
Well, Elad, you quoted me then saying that after we made the decision, and I said, I'm willing to take upon myself that I'll need to go and visit David and Chezi's wife and tell them what heroes they were. Thankfully, we're here talking about this in a podcast. But yeah, at the moment, but you know what? The decision that I made, I only made because I knew that people like you and hundreds of others out there wouldn't think twice and understand that this is what needs to be done.
100%. Everyone expressed from the headquarters, basically, you guys knowing, what the risk you guys are taking. And if you're willing to take the risk, we'll let you take the risk. And I'll tell you another little story. In Kfar Aza, we're there like 4 ambulances with at least 15 volunteers waiting for wounded people to come out. And after, I didn't even tell you that earlier that after we got shot out, and so the soldier says, we're going to go in and bring out the wounded people. This guy's wait here. And many times it happened. It was very, very sad because this is soldiers that we were drinking together and eating something before they went in, and we used to get their body sometimes like a half an hour
Literally,
later.
it's seeing them as they go in.
It's seeing them going in and we getting their body back, and we were just piling up some bodies of brave soldiers that gave up their life. And the entrance of Kfar Aza.
We saw the lineup, the famous lineup.
And they were sometimes even asking us, please take the bodies away. We said, no, we're here for saving lives. When we finished saving lives, we'll deal with that.
And before, as we're starting to come to the end of this hour, try to maybe, leave us with some optimism as to the value of what you did, what each one of those volunteers risking. When we're talking about taking the risk, give us an example of 1 or 2 that really, you said it was really worth it all.
So it's not even a question of saving one guy is worth it all.
Well, it says
But,
he who saves one life is saved an entire world.
But we're in the entrance of Kfar Aza. A Shin Bet car pulls next to us and say, guys, there's 50 terrorists in the fields next to you. Okay, so we're there. There's another 10 soldiers with us. They aim their weapons towards that direction, and we move back again. And then another Shin Bet, a few minutes later, says, guys, in the fields of Saad, which is the other direction,
The other side.
there's 3 terrorists. We know there's 3 terrorists there, so they're aiming there. And I remember the moment that they're aiming that direction, they're aiming there, and we're in the middle. I'm looking at Aaron, and Aaron's looking at me and saying, Chezi, are we normal? Should we really stay here? And basically, we're even thinking about saying, maybe it's too much of a risk already. But the guy was telling us, listen, there's 20, 30 people
they were
wounded.
expecting, I remember, because we were getting the information
Right.
that you were there waiting for a group of 20 or 30
wounded people,
soldiers
200
and
meters,
civilians that are just a few hundred
200
meters away.
meters away from us. Please stay. So he say. So we basically told everyone, guys, whoever feels that it's too dangerous for him and he wants to leave, please leave. And whoever wants to stay, if he knows the risk, can stay. And everyone stayed. No one even thought about.
It's unbelievable.
No one even thought about leaving.
Now understand why 200 meters would take so long for them to come is because it's under fire. If they just needed to extricate them under fire and bring them out, and they ended up coming there. They ended up coming because I remember the shuttles that we started doing from there to the helicopters into the hospital afterwards.
If we didn't have people like Chezi here at the field, so we couldn't draw the map with all the heats and all
The
the,
heat map,
attacks. It's like people like
and
him.
to think, yeah, you wanted to say something?
No, you said you asked for something optimistic. I remember, like, I would say it's probably like 9 o'clock at night when they came out with the two babies. With the two babies, we all.
That was around midnight.
Yeah, it was midnight. Okay, you know, timeline is not something.
Yeah. Not on that day.
More than that, they sat with me with the trauma team, Chosen,
The psychotrauma
the
unit.
psychotrauma, and they said, "Do you remember what you did that day?" And the truth is, I'm trying to remember. I had no idea. I knew the stories. I didn't know timeline at all. And they said basically for your mental health, you have to like create a timeline. So I really created a timeline. It's possible that one came before the other, but it doesn't matter. For me,
So
this
anyway,
is the timeline.
tell us about that moment.
So that moment, we knew there's two babies that are trying to pull out, and many people were killed trying to bring out. I think the terrorists killed their parents, and they left them to cry. So people come to rescue them, and many people were killed trying to save them.
I think that in episode 12, we're going to meet Sivan, which was with you down there, the paramedic.
Yeah.
When you brought them out.
So when they brought them out, we all had tears in our eyes because we knew how much, and they said they gave us the babies. So what are we doing with them? That means they're not wounded, and basically we found someone to take them to the hospital.
Unbelievable.
And the officers that gave them these babies
yeah.
few months after was killed as Gaza.
That's optimistic. So that day wasn't a great day for Israel, but it was a great day for a lot of heroes.
For Israeli society. It was a great day for Israeli society.
Yeah.
When the heroes that came from the community, like yourself.
Right, exactly.
I mean, you got to remember, we're talking about thousands of responders that are volunteers.
Also soldiers that left their house, not as a unit.
Absolutely.
They left their house with a gun, and they went and they fought.
And the security forces in the villages, which are total civilians. We spoke about this, and we're going to speak about others in Prigan and in other places where total civilians were fighting for their homes because the army wasn't there.
Right. Like I work for a production team, and one of the days, like
pretty good one too.
Yeah, pretty good one. Fleischmann Pellets are the best.
There you go. You did your commercial.
So on one of the events, I was still I was drafted a few days after October 7th to the military, and I needed like a break after like 80 days. So they had an event in Jerusalem, and my job. So I left the base for like a few hours just to like feel some normal air, and my job was bringing the heroes to speak at the stage. So Rachel that cooked the cookies and ofakim, and so I was supposed to bring a SWAT guy to speak, and while we're walking, something looked familiar. I don't know. I said, I know you from somewhere. I said, oh, yeah. And he's just walking towards the stage. I asked him, were you wounded on October 7th? They said yes, and he's continued walking. I said, did you get a bullet in the hand and one in the chest? And then he turned around because that was already. How do I know the details?
Wow.
And then I'm the one that took him to the hospital. Basically, we didn't take that. We took him to Cheletz, and from Cheletz, someone else took him to the hospital. And the reason I remember him so much because his hand was really wounded, and it was with bandages on it. And he said, 3 hours, I'm in the hospital, I'm coming back to fight. He killed 15 terrorists by himself in the entrance of Aluma. And he picked up his hand for something, and the terrorist hit his hand, and then he got one in the chest in the bulletproof vest. But this guy killed over 15 terrorists himself.
Wow!
And to meet him, and it was hugs and some tears, but that was.
And you have part of the rights of saving him.
Yeah, listen, yeah.
Wow! And on that note, I think, wow, what a high to end on. I mean, you gave us the optimism, and I think that would really be the takeaways from this episode, from this part of the day, is understanding that sometimes protocols and rules
are meant to be broken
and bent.
100%.
Because yes, they're there, and we saw early morning, we obeyed them, but after that we understood, and to go in and to understand the impact of doing it, and understanding how many lives were saved because of that call and the devotion of the people and the selflessness. And it really is tremendous. And Chezi, I want to thank you, first of all, for everything that you do all year long. and especially on October 7th. And I'm proud to call myself a friend of yours. And I think Elad will agree with me. And tune in for our next episode. We'll have here Avi Marcus, who I think his name came up in every episode until now. And we'll talk about the medevacs and the helicopters. In the meantime, make sure to subscribe. Right over here, subscribe, and of course follow us on all the platforms. And I want to thank you, and Chezi, once again, thank you very much, you and every one of the volunteers. And remember, an emergency, preparing, practicing, lessons learned, implement them, and of course, sometimes bending the rules. Thank you very much.
Thanks.